So, GTA has been in the news again as of late, not through Rockstar or Take-Two officially, but through Jason Schreier, which by that, as accurate as he is, and as much as he is one of the few out here who does have actual integrity as a journalist, at the same time, until we get official word from Rockstar Take-Two on this info, you should take it with at least a little bit of a grain of salt, but nonetheless, considering his track record, there's probably a good chance that this is somewhat accurate at least. So, I'm just gonna read this bit from the tweets that he put out in regards to this information. So unfortunately, I couldn't read the Bloomberg article because it requires a monthly subscription, which I don't feel like paying for. So we're just gonna read all of Jason's tweets here. I read it to mobile, but I'll just stick to the tweets. So, Rockstar Games has spent the last 4 years overhauling its culture and working to become a kinder, more progressive company. But what does that actually look like? And what does it mean for the company's next game, Grand Theft Auto 6, my latest feature? So, Rockstar's overhaul started in 2018 when staff called out its culture of crunch, bullying, and fraud house antics. The company has ousted managers accused of abuse and promised to cut down on overtime. One employee calls it a boys club transformed into a real company. Rockstar moved transphobic jokes from the most recent re-release of GTA 5 and quietly cancelled an online mode called Cops and Crooks after the George Floyd protests. Grand Theft Auto 6 will have a female Latina protagonist, the first playable woman in modern Rockstar history. Production on Grand Theft Auto 6 has been slower than expected, largely due to the pandemic, but also due to these changes, as employees grow accustomed to working at this new Rockstar, but many say morale is higher than ever, and that the cultural changes are well worth it. The rare look inside Rockstar Games and the development of Grand Theft Auto 6 is based on interviews with more than 20 people who either worked there or left very recently. Read the whole story here. Also, from the sound of things, the next Grand Theft Auto is going to be toned down, and it's only going to punch up, because they don't want to make jokes about marginalized groups, which that's something else I'm going to get into. So starting with the first tweet, one employee calls it a boys club transformed into a real company. Which I want to say, first off, that is a good thing. If the culture is something that is better for everyone working there, nothing but thumbs up. Rockstar has removed transphobic jokes from the most recent re-release of GTA 5 and cancelled Cops and Crooks. Now the thing about removing jokes, I'll get to that at a later point. As for the Cops and Crooks game mode, that's something that started in GTA 4, and I do understand why they wouldn't want to implement the mode at the time, back in 2020, but at this point now in 2022, no one's gonna give a shit. Maybe a few people, you know, typical vocal minority on Twitter and such, which in my opinion has way too much power over companies. Maybe they'll get a little pissed off, you know, some sand in their panties, but ultimately, who gives a shit? It's a game mode in GTA. It's a criminal organization game where you play as a scumbag piece of shit criminal who kills people. Whether or not they deserve it, it's all morally gray when it comes to GTA. It's a politically satirical franchise where you play as shitty human beings. But we're gonna draw the line at a cops and robbers game mode, which has been around long before the whole George Floyd thing happened back 2 years ago. Just put the fucking mode in. It's just more fun content for people to play. No one's gonna think of that aside from a few who have nothing better to do because they need that dopamine rush from Twitter because that's what their lives revolve around. Production on GTA 6 has been slower than expected, largely due to the pandemic, understandably. But due to these changes, as employees grow accustomed to working at this new Rockstar, many say morale is higher than ever before and that the cultural changes are well worth it. Again, nothing but a great thing. The lack of crunch culture, proper management, I'm hoping, because that's another thing that we should discuss a bit more in gaming, I feel. Not just crunch culture, but a lack of proper management when it comes to many AAA games out there. I mean, it wasn't just crunch culture and the pandemic that affected the development of games such as Cyberpunk, Battlefield 2042, and Halo Infinite. It was clearly a lack of proper management with games such as those, and that's something that also needs to be brought up as a discussion point for how to better game development. Get people in who actually are competent at the job, who actually care about the job, can work in a streamlined environment, can help make a functioning streamlined environment, and on top of all that, this is something that I don't think is talked about enough. A part of what I feel, even as someone who is an armchair developer in this instance, Something I think that really helps improve game development and helps with morale is when the people who work together actually fucking like each other. I think that they should get in people who are passionate about the thing that they're working on and can also get along well. Of course, not everyone's gonna agree. There's gonna be conflicts with creative decisions amongst other things, and situations such as that lead to people leaving companies all the time because of creative differences, and that's just how it is. Not everyone's gonna stick around, people come and go. That's just how it is with a business, with a company. But at the same time, there should be a certain type of synergy to where the chemistry's so on point between everyone working together that everyone just works as sort of a cohesive unit, in a sense. And I don't mean in the sense of cogs in a machine that are there to just basically be the hamsters in the hamster wheels for these corporations who don't give a shit about their well-beings. I'm simply referring to the fact that people, again, just simply like working for the job that they're doing, because without the passion, there's no morale, and without the morale, there's no need to actually feel motivated or inspired to work or make the games good. I mean, why would... Just look at a franchise like COD, for example, and how it was a annual franchise for so long, on top of the many other problems revolving around that series. It's just the fact that you spend so much time having to pump out a new game every year, regardless of the fact that there's 3 different main studios. Doesn't change the fact that all these different studios are helping each other out, and this franchise, up till this year, will have released a brand new game every single year, a main brand new entry every single year since 2005. United Offensive and Finest Hour don't count because they're spin-off titles, but anyways, when you're constantly pumping out and churning out so many titles back to back for a franchise, it's gonna lead to some level of fatigue, which is going to lead to burnout and a lack of inspiration. That's probably why COD has gone through so many low points. It's just there's a lack of inspiration on top of everything. And can you blame these developers for feeling that way? And on top of that, you have Activision and their shitty greediness constantly breathing down on their necks. No shit, these games aren't going to be as good as they could be, and outside of COD, that's just going to affect anything. It's just a shitty system that goes on. It's a broken system, and it's good to see Rockstar is making change in that regard, and hopefully this is something that does impact the industry going forward, along with other problems that are a constant issue revolving around the industry, which... If we were to discuss all those issues, or even some of them, we'd be here for at least 5 hours, but moving on. So, when it comes to my actual concerns with this game, I know I haven't really gotten to them. I may not even title it that, but we'll see. Whatever works for the views, am I right? When it comes to my concerns, it's not even the crunch in management at this point. That's fantastic news. I'm happy to hear that. I'm hoping for nothing but the best with this game. Not even as someone who's a GTA fan, but as someone who just like seeing things good. Of course, not every game that comes out can be good. That's just the nature of things. You gotta have some bad with the good. And if there wasn't any bad, then we wouldn't appreciate the good as much as we do. But when it comes down to it, as much as I'm hoping for this game, I can't help but be a little concerned. I'm definitely at least cautiously optimistic. And for one, it has nothing to do with the fact that this game is going to have a female lead. I see nothing wrong with that at all. Have whoever you want to have as your main character or one of your playable characters. I've stated my opinion in regards to what I'm hoping for GTA 6. My hope for, in terms of the story and characters, is something that's just well written. I just want a well written narrative that I can get invested into. That's what it comes down to for me. Have it be male, female, whatever you want to go for. I don't give a shit. I just want a good narrative which actually strikes a chord. It makes me feel something in some fashion. And also, this is just me personally. I don't speak for anyone else with this. This is just what I would like. I want a game that's more in the vein of GTA 4's tone as opposed to GTA 5, which I know that's something that started to change with the Ballad of Gay Tony and the Damn DLC. The full name I don't remember at the moment, but the Damn DLC with Johnny before he got his fucking brains stomped out of his skull by Trevor in GTA 5. But okay, it was called The Lost and the Damned. After that point, things started to get more lighthearted, and I'm hoping for something that takes itself a little bit more seriously this time around, maybe slightly darker in tone, but at the same time doesn't hold itself back in regards to political satire, and just satire in general, because a part of GTA's charm is that it's always understood one of the points of comedy is to push boundaries, to push obstacles, to say things that maybe people are too afraid to say, but have no problem thinking and satirizing that sort of mindset for the sake of making something that is entertaining subject matter and maybe ties into the overall plot and universe of that game and makes the game feel more alive for that reason. And with the allegories GTA has had up to this point, it adds that relatability factor, which that's something else I want to get into. I think I've gotten to this topic a little bit, but I want to mention a little bit more in terms of wokeness when it comes to gaming. The way I see it, games, they can be as political as they want, because as much as some people will deny it, politics have honestly always gone hand in hand with games simply because they've always been a part of gaming to some extent. You look at games like Metal Gear Solid 2, Halo 2, MW2. What's the name of that one shooter that came out in 2012? Hold on. I need to look this up in my Steam library. Give me a second. Spec Ops: The Line. That's fucking right, yes. This game was political as fuck. Even if you didn't realize it at the time when playing it, it was political as fuck. And that only made it all the better when you came to realize the whole point of the game. It's like, holy shit! That's pretty fucking... yeah, that's some real shit right there. Point being, politics have always been there, it's just, in recent times, in regards to something such as Sony showing their support of Black Lives Matter through PlayStation, that's turned some people the wrong way. Totally not racist, I'm sure. But I do get why. At the same time, let me make that abundantly clear. Even if I am absolutely in disagreement with those who hate Black Lives Matter or are against it, at the same time with something like that or something else political, I get the mindset, because for a lot of people when they play games, to them it's a form of escapism. So when they see something that at all in any way resembles real life politics, they think to themselves, oh great, this company's gone woke, go woke, go broke. And you know, you see it time and time again. Just go onto Twitter, you'll see plenty of examples of it, or not even Twitter, plenty of YouTubers on this platform that are all about that. Doesn't even have to be related to gaming. It can be related to other forms of entertainment. Film is definitely one of them. Superheroes, you get the point. Anyways, when it comes to that sort of thing in terms of wokeness, whatever the fuck you want to call it, that term's stupid to me. I get it, but at the same time, these game developers, companies, whoever, excluding corporations, because with them in regards to something like Pride Month, it's usually just PR shit. Typical. You know, exploit something for the sake of brownie points because that'll make you more money. That's just how companies are. You see something that's like a holiday, you know, Christmas, Halloween, exploit the shit out of it. It's a business. It's capitalism, baby. Hey. But ultimately, when it comes to developers, you know, those who are passionate and actually care about things such as progressiveness and diversity and all that, they're free to do as they want. You may disagree with their political stances, but at the end of the day, gaming is a form of art, and art is an expression of self. And so people are going to express that in an art form that they're developing and making projects for. In this instance, it just so happens that's video games. That's how it's been since the beginning of time. That's why there's so many political fucking songs in existence, for example. Because of the opinions people have, and they're expressing that through that artistic medium that they feel passion towards, that they feel the need to express something through, because that's just what they're most comfortable with. Granted, there are times where that can become a bit too extreme, and you become so extreme in those beliefs that it clouds your entire judgment and makes you think of anyone who disagrees as an entitled hater who clearly doesn't understand your safe space and your echo chamber, which, you know, when you reach that point, it is an echo chamber. It's important to have a certain level-headedness and to make sure that you don't lift off of planet Earth and you stay down on the ground. In other words, keep it grounded and have some nuance when it comes to expressing whatever beliefs you have, you know? At the end of the day, the reason why Battlefield 5 got shit for being woke and Red Dead Redemption 2 didn't is because when it comes to Red Dead Redemption 2's diversity, it wasn't shoved in everyone's faces in the fucking marketing. It just so happens that the game had diverse characters, whereas with Battlefield 5, they made it apparent, hey guys, you see this World War II game we're making? Guess what? There's women and other people aside from white men in it. Okay? We're with you on this. We understand what's cool and hip now in modern day. We don't know how to explain to our children World War II and why women weren't on the front line unless you were a female Russian sniper, for example. But what we can do is shove it in your face and then get mad when nobody wants to buy our product because, you know, You don't like it, don't buy it, and then get surprised when no one buys it. That right there is an example of failed reverse psychology. Good job, EA. You were very smart with that decision. But back to the actual point of this video. I know I have a tendency of getting a little off topic when it comes to things like that, but I just have a lot I want to say with this, because there's a lot that can be said about this topic. And so, when it comes down to it, the way I see it, GTA shouldn't hold itself back for anyone, regardless of whether or not it's woke. These developers, they should have the freedom to do what they desire with the game. I just hope that doesn't come at the cost of sacrificing a part of what made GTA as big as it is. Because yes, GTA was not always what it's been, but at the same time, if it wasn't for GTA 3 and the way that the series has stuck with that formula since, then the series would not be what it is today. It wouldn't have the pop culture influence and icon status that it simply does now in 2022. So, even if GTA 1 and 2 weren't about political satire and punching up or down, at the same time, there's a reason why those games were not as big as what has been this colossal fucking juggernaut of a series since 3 and onwards. At the end of the day, I'm simply someone who believes that if you're gonna give shit to one community or whatever it is, why should you exclude someone else because they're marginalized? The way I see it, what happens when that group is no longer marginalized? Then it's okay to make jokes? And I'm not saying that something such as transphobia is okay. If we're to block off one type of joke, then why don't we do the same with these other types of joke? Oh, because they don't offend us. Because we aren't personally affected. Because we don't have some reason to project in some way. But that other type of joke, that's perfectly okay. No, that's not how it works. You can't have your cake and eat it too. That's entitlement. And it's toxic to even think that's something that isn't hypocritical whatsoever. It is hypocritical. Because not only that, what you're doing is, when you say you can't make these jokes about this certain type of community, what you're doing is putting that community on a pedestal, which is where, you know, the white savior mentality tends to stem from, which then leads to a case of tokenism, which in itself is transphobic. You try so hard to do one extreme that you end up bouncing around and becoming that extreme. You become the very thing you swore to destroy, as Obi-Wan Kenobi put it. And if not that, then something such as racism, for example. It's just, you know, at the end of the day, like I was saying before, it comes down to having a proper level of nuance and not overdoing it with one extreme or the other. Think of it like a pendulum. It swings towards one way too much, it falls too much to that side, whereas it swings too much to the other side, same result, same outcome. It just so happens to be going about it in a different direction, but the outcome, regardless of the direction, is the same nonetheless. So to put it simply, if they want to be diverse, by all means, do so. Like I said, I don't care if there's a female protagonist. In fact, by having a female protagonist, it leads to all sorts of potential and satire that they could do with that, as opposed to the many male protagonists that they've had in GTA up to this point. And if this game is sticking with the Bonnie and Clyde sort of thing, then there's a lot of potential for a lot of tension between these two characters that we play as in this game. While there has been dating and romance in previous Rockstar games, at the same time, it's never been to the extent of a Bonnie and Clyde sort of title that they appear to be going for, that there's a lot of potential there for something very interesting. So I'm curious to see what they do, just so long as they don't lean too much towards one direction or the other. You know, have a good level of nuance. Don't have shit be in our faces. Just, you know, be progressive, be diverse. Do whatever it is you set out to do artistically. Just make sure you don't forget the quality along with that representation. Because what's the point of representation in some form for a character if that representation is going to be bad, thrown in, shoehorned in, and if anything, because of these factors, leads to it being more disrespectful and worse for that community that desires that representation. Ultimately, just make sure you know what you're doing. That's what it comes down to. And ultimately, I just want a great GTA game. It's been a long ass time. It's been 9 years. Well, it will be 9 in 2 months, month and a half, whatever. It's been a while. And I'm looking forward to when the next game releases. And I'm just hoping for nothing but the best for this game. They can take as long as they need to, so long as there isn't crunch like it appears they've really worked out the kinks with that. So long as there isn't issues with mismanagement or miscommunication. You know, then we're good to go. You know, I just want a quality product, and the moment that they got out all these frat boy guys, whatever you want to call them, that's when all the humor went. In that case, it gives people who have that sort of raunchy sense of humor a bad look. Okay, at the end of the day, not everyone with humor like that are like those guys that were making it a bad environment to work in, okay? You can be a respectable person while at the same time having a satirical, dark sense of humor, whatever you want to call it. So, I just wanted to say that as well, because that's just something I noticed. It's a little thing, but it's something I just realized thinking about the situation. So, ultimately, that's just what I wanted to say for this talk video. I can't think of anything else. Although if I do, I'm sure I'll add that in post-filming and while editing. Or maybe I'll just wait for another video to put it in. I don't know, but that's gonna be it. I hope you enjoyed this talk. What are your guys' thoughts on this topic? Make sure to leave them in the comment section below. And that being said, I'll see you all next time. But until then, I'm out. Later.